What is up? It's Figure Hunter, and today we're going to do an initial review of the Garmin Enduro 2. The Garmin Enduro 2 is a beast of a watch, and it is hefty in size, but it is packed with features. We're going to look a lot at the hands-on of this just to compare sort of like overall design layout and even compare it to the 955 so that you have sort of an idea of what a big watch compared to a smaller watch size casing would look and feel like on the wrist, and just sort of side by side. So if you like this review, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing for more. I'm doing an in-depth review of the Garmin training readiness when compared to multiple other platforms, specifically compared to Whoop and slightly to Athletic and to compared to the Polar Nightly Recharge platforms, as well as I'm going to release a 2022 best watch for CrossFit or high intensity interval training review in the next week or so. So we're catching up with a lot of things, but with the Enduro 2, we are going to look at specifically a hands-on, just sort of look in detail at it, because there's not many on the street today. There's not many out in the world today. And so I wanted you to be able to sort of see in clear form all the different pieces and picture of this watch as it also compares to a smaller Garmin 955. And then we're going to look at basically the features that come on it within the general watch capability features, within the general health, within the general training and sports profile aspects of it. So with that, we're just going to dive in and we'll come back together in a summary and talk about it. All right, so here we have it in full. So you have the Enduro 2 with the complementary band. This is just a traditional quick fit band. 26 millimeter standard, everything else, and then you have the specialty band that now comes with the Enduro 2 as it also did on the Enduro 1. So a lot of things to notice about the feature set of the watch is 51 millimeters across, so that is pretty big. 1.4, it's got the large solar ring, as well as now it has a sapphire solar panel on the top, so sapphire glass that also extracts a little bit of solar power. You obviously have the bolts that are now off the top of it from when the original Enduro, as well as the Phoenix 6 series. It's got these really great accent colors, so the neon green, as well as these little neon green bumps. One thing I wanted to show in the video is just what color it is. So it doesn't look clear. It looks like the arms on the advertising for Garmin look like a different color, but they are also carbon gray. And interestingly enough, it doesn't actually tell you the color, at least on the box, that it's a carbon gray. So one of the other nice features about it is that it's, titanium bezel as well as a titanium back. It's got the same Elevate 4.0 heart rate sensor, the same power plug. Garmin's been fantastic that they have the same power plug working on all their watches across a long period of time. Obviously it's also just sort of a look thing, whether you like the looks of this over the Phoenix 7X. The Enduro just has these flashy bits of color, as well as especially like the color around the edges, but everything else is going to be basically the same. So let's compare it to the 955, just so you can see a size comparison. I'm going to change the strap. All right, so here it is next to the 955. I've obviously changed straps so that we can flip it around without having to worry about the Velcro getting in the way. You can see a clear size difference. Obviously this is 46.5 millimeters across and this is 51. But one thing that's really interesting in looking at this watch versus this, when you think about like how it feels or how it fits, you can tell just side by side and looking at these that this is like premium quality metal. Obviously it's not just metal, it's titanium, and this is just a little bit more plasticky. Although it has a good look to it, obviously there's a difference in the quality of the, just think of what you're wearing on your wrist, what people would see. I wanted to spend a lot of time in this video just looking at the Enduro 2, just for its, for its beauty. One thing that's sort of interesting is if you look at the thickness, you might think, oh God, the Enduro 2 is super thick. It's not that much thicker. So surprisingly, with the heart rate bump on the back of the 955, it's 16 millimeters thick. And also surprisingly, with the bump of the heart rate monitor on the back, it's 17 millimeters. So it's an extra millimeter. So every millimeter counts when it's the thickness of the watch. But the 955, which is not the hugest watch by any stretch, is actually just 1 millimeter thinner when it comes to a watch that has over 2 times the battery life. So I just thought that was really relatively interesting. When you look at the overall clarity of the screens, you can just sort of see that the screen quality is pretty much synonymous with the two. The backlight on the 955 is a little bit brighter. As you can tell here, they're both turned up to full brightness, but the quality of the colors, and this is the same thing with the Fenix 7 series, it just didn't come as bright in full brightness mode. So this is at 100%, as the Fenix series of watches did. But those are the differences when you compare just the overall size and spec difference when you're thinking like, oh God, a 51 millimeter versus a traditional 46, 47 millimeter watch. How does it look? How does it compare? How does it sort of seem? I mean, I think you can see like the beauty and the specifics of the aspects of the Fenix 7. So I don't know how that text message came through. It's supposed to be on Do Not Disturb. So let's look at it on my wrist. This is how it looks on my 179 centimeter wrist. So that's the look there, and you can see it compared to the Okay, so this is the 955. It still has some strong size, obviously, but it's still obviously a lot smaller. Okay, so this is how it looks on the wrist itself. So you can see it's clearly like a difference of size. You know, I think it takes some getting used to. It looks like I'm wearing like a altimeter, like a full flight plan on my wrist, like from a cockpit. But I also really love the premium quality feel. I love that it's only 1 millimeter thicker, and then it basically has over a month of battery life. So let's talk about the features. One thing I want to make sure to highlight is what watch faces come with it, just in quick glance form. So this is, a lot of these look very much like the 7X, so just labeled Enduro. So it's got the Enduro sort of plate. You can change all the data fields. We'll stop on one in particular. That one's pretty all right. This is the one that I think is the most. I love that you can arrange this totally the same on the 7X, so no special benefit there. But I just think to have this sort of quick glance at 3 primary components and then the circular glance with others is nice. These are all sort of pretty standard, and then if you get into one that looks more specific for the Enduro, this is the one that's on the box. This is what it looks like, and it just has a slightly different look than you would get standard on the Fenix 7X. All right, so looking at the watch all around, it has a number of different features. The reason I like it compared to the 955 is the 955 is currently the highest featured watch of the entire Garmin lineup at only $500. So this is at $1,100, but it is getting all the features, but does not yet have all the features. So we're going to just look at the watch features. I do like that it is a touchscreen. I think that is a nice addition. The sapphire glass, the titanium pieces, and then obviously one really cool feature that so many people like is the flashlight feature. So 2 times the brightness of the Fenix 7X. So that's just a nice add. That's really sweet. It's 10 ATM water resistant versus 5 ATM on most of their watches. And it brings about 34 days of standby time and 46 days if you get some general sun coverage. 64 grams for just the weight of the watch itself. And that's, that's heavier, but compare it to 61 grams for the weight of the Fenix 7X, but you're getting considerably good extension of battery life. So feature set, basic features. I'm just going to bounce through these things. The weather, sunrise, sunset, notifications come through smoothly and easily. Obviously, one huge addition to the Enduro 2 is the addition of music. So you have Wi-Fi, you have ability to put, your Spotify playlists on this. Really, really nice feature. One of the new features is the Stocks app. So it's just another cool little aspect of one of the widgets, one of the glances they're now adding in. You have your calendar item, solar intensity, which you can track how much life I got in the sun today. And then, you have a really cool compass, which is standard for all the Garmin watches. I mean, they're all sort of built for the outdoors. So those are the basic features. So now let's look at some of the health features. So the health snapshot is basically something that's going to take 2 minutes and it's going to tell you like 5 different metrics. I don't find it personally that worthwhile. Next you have, nope. I do like the touchscreen. I haven't gotten used to using the touchscreen on a regular basis. So this is your stress level over the last however many hours. It's trying to count down to see if it can measure it. And the stress tracking is a huge wellness feature when it comes to body battery. So the body battery is a full 24/7 tracking of how your life is depleting your reserves. It's tracking your change in heart rate, which is heart rate variability. In simple form, although it's just not spelled out that way, they convert it to a stress number and converts the stress number to how much depletion it has on your overall internal reserves. And this is one of the biggest physiological metrics you can get on any watch at the time. It obviously does the full sleep tracking. So You get the full score. I think the score is more important than the exact breakdown of stages, and there's a lot of debate over the accuracy of Garmin's stage tracking for deep sleep and light. I think the score itself is probably one of the more important and has been one of what felt like the most accurate. I'm going to do an intense dive on the training readiness over time, but you can get your stages here even if you feel like they're not right. You get your accumulation of stages here, and it gives you some basic direction, and then you can see your sleep score over time. Obviously I've only been wearing it 2 days, so that is the sleep section. And then leading into the next section, you're getting your heart rate variability over time. This is a big pretty graph that is more advanced than the 955 from what I remember last, but at the very least you can see your heart rate variability over time, and this will accumulate in to calculate some of your wellness and some of your training readiness features. Next up, let's dive into some of the sports features. So last activity, this was yesterday, when it comes to basically a workout that I used. It doesn't matter. I did not actually have a pace. I just used a certain type of profile that was looking for pace. The heart rate over time, you can see your heart rate zone calculating. You can see your impact on your aerobic training effect and your anaerobic training effect, and then the overall load cardiovascularly on yourself during that workout. You can see a series of workouts all at any time, looking at your full history. And then the training readiness, it's not built in yet because it doesn't have enough heart rate variability status, doesn't have enough weekly status. It takes 19 days to accumulate this. But either way, when it gets done, it's going to, well, I thought it would at least show the areas that you could get, but it will not. So training status, this is the improved training status. This has been on a lot of Garmin watches, but it is more advanced than it used to be. So in this training status, you can see variations of the pieces that go into the pie. The recent load you put on your body, the recent load focus, like what types of workouts you've done more often in the last 7 days, your VO2 max score, heart rate variability score, and that's your average score over a 7-day period, not just looking at last night. Your amount of recovery time. The recovery time is one of the best features compared to many other watches because it takes into account the rigor of one particular workout and ties it to it, your stress level throughout the day in the body battery aspect, as well as your sleep score in calculating how much recovery time you need before the next really hard workout and the heat acclimation. So these are all features that are on many of the watches, but still make this a premier watch, your overall training metrics. So if we go back into one of the workout profiles, so one of the features that's new to the Enduro 2 that was not on the Enduro 1 that is really fantastic is the fact that you have maps. You also have stamina. That wasn't a feature on the Enduro 1. It is on the 7X. Stamina is a feature that I've been testing for high intensity interval tracking and CrossFit training to see if stamina metric is useful, and I'm finding it to be definitely of use, maybe not of significant perfect use, but the biggest thing that came with the Enduro 2 is the maps, and with that you now get new features. One is grade adjusted pace, so based on the rigor of the grade up ahead, I think it's going to tell you how to run slower, run faster. Your next fork, so if you're on a path and it'll tell you up ahead, you better watch for a turn in the road up ahead before you get there. It also, for ultra runners, now has a run auto rest timer. So if you're on a 48-hour or 24-hour run and you're going to have specific rest periods at aid stations, when you stop moving, it'll automatically pause, and that's getting better and better over time. So those are features that are brand new to the Enduro 2. Those three specifically, grade adjusted pace, next fork, and auto rest, that should be porting over to the other ones. But the fact that it has maps is one of the features that I really liked about the Phoenix lineup that I thought was a big miss on the original Enduro, and now it is here. You can obviously build your own profiles like I have done here, where I built a CrossFit profile. It looks like a little running guy because I used the running backbone so that in my data screens I would have a stamina calculation, so I could test to see if the stamina applied to non-robing activities, and it absolutely did. And don't want to go there, but I have fully customized it to be my round counter for counting my last lap time, my current lap time, and the number of rounds I've completed to see if I'm on pace. I you know, there's a map in there, thanks for nothing. This is one of the features that I built in, and I'll put a link in the description below for how to build your own CrossFit tracking feature, but this includes aerobic and anaerobic impact tracking mid-workout, as well as your round counter, as well as your round time counter. And then this is a new one that I built that's got just a heart rate gauge, your overall stamina impact, as well as the last lap time, just for looking at different metrics. So you can build all this and build your own CrossFit profile. You can build your own whatever profile by just duplicating an existing profile. So that is the full feature set. Let's talk about it in summary, looking at the Enduro initially. What do I think initially in summary of the Garmin Enduro 2? I think it is an awesome watch. I think it is, I don't know, I just think it's awesome. It is $1,100. It had better be awesome. It had better come with a used car or something like that at $1,100. But if I'm looking at this sort of realistically, it has a full premium design feel to it, and it is the same premium design you would get with the Fenix 7X, but I personally love the color and accent lines of this. I love that it is gonna get a much more extended battery life. Like if you're gonna go big or go home. So I think getting the extra 5 to 10 days of battery life in standby mode or in general use mode over the Fenix 7X, getting the 2 times brighter flashlight, actually I think that's really a fantastic benefit to it. The fact that you get the specialty band makes it so much more comfortable to wear. It is a big differentiator when you're wearing it versus just a regular rubber band. Even though I really like the rubber band here, it does feel really stretchy and it is a good quality rubber band. Who is the Enduro 2 for? It's really for anybody across the whole spectrum. So I think this watch is going to appeal to people that just like a rugged, large, but high quality looking watch. I think the bigger screen for me with my failing eyes is super helpful. The fact that you can turn the brightness up and it is just as bright as the 7X, which the original Enduro did not go up to the same level of brightness as the 6X did. So you can get bright, you can get big legible text in a 1.4-inch screen. It, to me, feels like the most easily usable reading watch face, and you can pack more data into that extra landscape, as well as you just get this sort of premium quality look feel to it and not adding that much weight because of the titanium components. I think the flashlight is fantastic. I think using it in day-to-day life is fantastic. I think the fact that they added maps and music. So I really loved the look and feel of the original Enduro 1 more so than the 6X. Now that doesn't make sense, but the fact that the Enduro came with the titanium materials, the fact that it came with just the green accent, neon green accent colors, I thought was just a much better looking watch in simple aspects. But I think the fact now that it has all the music, it has the maps, which was a big loss for me before, which is why I would never wear the Enduro, because I want to have the maps. If I'm wearing a big watch, I want to be able to have the full map set. I want to have music storage. I want those basic things. So the Enduro 2 accomplishes all that. It just does so at a significantly steep price point. So with that, that's the initial review for the Enduro 2. I'll do a final review in the next couple of weeks. It's the Fit Gear Hunter. Thanks so much for watching.